we've all met at different times. We've all been working together a different number of times. Myself and the bass player, Dan, have been playing together for almost 20 years. And we met in school long, long ago and have been in several different bands. One of which was with Carla. And say maybe 10 years ago, we had a group together called Charming Hostess. And in that, Carla was the singer with two other women. So it was 3 women singing. And members of Dan and I had a group called Idiot Flesh, and we were like the backup group for Charming Hostess. So these 2 different bands, 2 different forms. And when Idiot Flesh started to go fly apart, we knew that we wanted to do some project with Carla, that we had something else, a different kind of a group that we wanted to do with Carla and this drummer who was also a composer, David Shamrock. And so the 4 of us got together and we all sort of agreed that we wanted to make this rock music, but have it based in, have a strong base in our common interest in contemporary classical music, like new classical music, or by that I mean 20th century, very sort of broad general interest and appreciation in that kind of music, that kind of compositional approach, but also influenced by industrial music's emphasis on texture and sound rather than on melody and harmony. So these are sort of conflicting sides of our musical interests that we all agreed that we had, and we all agreed that our basic tools that we had developed as musicians had sort of given us a firm basis in this kind of harmony, melody kind of writing, but we wanted to focus on music that would start with just sound and noises, and Dan makes all these homemade instruments, and so you feature them and just see what they do. You can't just write, you know, as the melody line to be played on this instrument. They can only go, and then you can try to go, you know, but it'll be fucked up, you know, and it won't really come out the same. So, and that's been part of our writing process all along, is just, you know, have a song idea. Okay, this song it'll have these words, it'll have this part here that's quiet, and then it'll burst out into this loud part, but at the beginning to leave it very rough and very open and come in, okay, if I do this, blah, 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 what do you do? And everybody starts, I just go, blah, 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 and they start like, doing their little idiosyncratic, their unique, personal kind of playing on the song, so that everybody's part sort of has its, it doesn't say match up in like, you know, like on a song like Powerless, where it seems like we're not paying any attention to each other half the time, you know, and that as a basic sort of sound where everybody's playing something very independent, but we all know that we're all on the same map, and that at some point we're all going to go together and go, you know, the big.
Yeah, it's fun when we can get the audience involved, especially in that moment. It can kind of turn into anything.
Yep.
Like once that moment hits, it's we've done it a lot of time that it's just gone totally different directions, and a lot of that depends on the crowd.
I've actually left the stage, and people thought the show was done. On the last tour in North Carolina, I pulled the band off stage, and the entire club left, and they all came out into the parking lot thinking it was done, and then we ran back inside, and they they followed us, and then we finished the song at that point. So anything can happen in that moment. every once in a while, that thing has happened probably a few times before. We stumble onto something that works, and maybe sometimes we'll set into a pattern, and it's good.
In Italy,
also
we left the building and went down to the river.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, we
But
did.
only us.
To this
And the audience
beautiful
stayed there,
bridge.
Yeah, we were gone. We were out of the building, down the stairs, and over this bridge, and dancing around on the river in the middle of the night.
The place was on the venue is on the second story of this beautiful old building that they'd turned into an art center, and if you looked out the windows, you could see this beautiful river flowing down, and with a footbridge that went across the river. So we ran out to the footbridge in the middle, and everyone kind of came out to the windows and looked down, like, "Are you coming back?" We ran back. It was very funny. It was nice to include the river in the show.
That's right.
Well, it wasn't called Sleepytime Gorilla Museum exactly. Yeah, and the story of it is in this.
In this one, yeah.
Yes, but it was called the Sleepytime Gorilla Press,
Sleepytime Gorilla Museum.
and they were a publishing group. They put out small publications of books in New York in the early 1900s, and they were loosely related to one of the members to the Futurists of Italy. She was a Russolo, and they also published the works of John Kane, who we had been interested in for years in Idiot Flesh days, who was a mathematician who was strange, and he was sort of tried to use math to prove that we don't exist, more or less. That was one of his projects, and so he wrote these strange books and wrote other kinds of things outside of math. And just his crazy ideas had a lot of appeal for us. And then we thought, he's published by the Sleepytime Gorilla Press, huh? And then we started looking into that and found that they had done one event, which they called the Sleepytime Gorilla Museum, where they took their warehouse of
this strange exhibition.
lit it on fire. And they advertised it as the Sleepytime Gorilla Museum. And so, actually, many years ago, my brother, Ward C. Picnic, had done this illustration based on the Goya Capriccios, but put the name Sleepytime Gorilla Museum because he's an artist and was interested in there and thought the name was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had this, and lived with this for a while, and thought, maybe, back in Idiot Flesh, I thought maybe I could have a group called that, and I made a flyer with this, and I was like, no, it's too long, it'll never work. And then some years later, when I was ready to get this new group together, I was like, oh wait, I just pulled this flyer out, and I was like, yeah, okay. I think now is the time. Now is the time for this long, awkward name.